Hey, welcome back. Oh, theory. Always a scary word. Assimilation theory, note that it's about characteristics of different groups coming to resemble one another. So assimilation is, to some extent, reciprocal. It goes both ways. The process, which has both economic and socio-cultural dimensions, begins with the immigrant generation and continues through the second generation and sometimes beyond. But there are assumptions that we make about how assimilation works. One is that it's linear, but of course we know that's not the case. Uneven assimilation has possible causes. It might be blocked by institutionalized racism. You can't eat here. You can't go to this school. You can't marry this person. It may be delayed, a process elongated by circumstances. You can't work in this field because you're not the right fill in the blank. It may be unfinished. Full completion may be blocked by racism. You got your MBA, but you can't get promoted because you're fill in the blank. You can afford it, but you can't buy a house in this neighborhood. Is assimilation still the model? The Anglo-conversion model haunts us. We're going to see how and why. Not everybody wants to assimilate. Not everyone wants to naturalize and become an American citizen. Many do, but many could care less. Not everyone wants to learn about American history, American culture, politics, etc. Many people who come here simply want to live their lives with an opportunity for peace, health, prosperity for their children, and so on. Becoming American, whatever that means, may not be on the list. This is a new idea, and it hurts. Move on to the next slide for more. Ethnicity can be both a resource and a burden. 100 years ago, ethnicity was a burden. We're going to see this in detail in the coming weeks. Work opportunities can be great at first, but your children might hit a wall. Discrimination might enhance the desire to push back rather than hang back. We've seen that a lot lately. People are just darn sick of it. There may also be segmented assimilation. Assimilation is still the desired outcome, but it may not happen all at once. There may be a complete rejection of any kind of assimilation. How do we live here and reject assimilation? Think about that. Is it even possible? Which of these models might be best? Move ahead to find out. So which of these models is valid? The Anglo-conversion model, non-white minorities will become white? Really? In a few weeks, we're going to introduce a term called the classic immigrants. No, not in a few weeks, I just introduced it. The classic immigrants, in quotes, became white, also in quotes. How that happened is a long story that will unravel as we move along in the class. So the classic assimilation model, the Anglo-conversion model, says everyone will become white. Oh, okay, yeah, but not unless we change some of our policies and so on. You've heard this line of thinking, I'm sure. We have characterized racialized immigrants as non-white. Systemic discrimination is blocking full assimilation. We even use the term people of color, which has nothing at all to do with skin tone. What do you think that's about? People of color? Breathe. Everybody breathe. There are other ways that people react to assimilation pressures. Reactive identification, becoming more racial or ethnic as the result of experiencing discrimination. If any of you saw the movie Black Klansman, there was a great example of this by Adam Driver, who plays the white counterpart to Stallworth. As Flip Zimmerman in the movie, he's Jewish but non-practicing and doesn't pay much attention to being Jewish until that is challenged by a KKK guy. Then he really gets his back up. So reactive identification. Selective assimilation is another approach, becoming more strongly racial or ethnic in some ways more than others to facilitate economic achievement. A good example of this, used by bad people, might be people claiming 1/64th percentage of Native American blood in order to get some kind of benefit for being Native American. Finally, symbolic ethnicity, something else we might see which is becoming more prominently but superficially racial or ethnic as a result of achieving success. This might involve flaunting symbols that you don't really care about just because you can and you know it ticks people off. Migration is the human condition, and it's been going on forever. So why focus on American immigration? Besides the obvious, we're here. We're not the only nation of immigrants, sometimes referred to as settler societies. An example of another one is Brazil, interestingly with a history somewhat similar to ours. European dominance, Portuguese initially, a nation that enslaved Africans, a nation with an indigenous population, and with lots of natural resources. So why study us? There's a universal ideal of the U.S. as the quintessential nation of immigrants. Just as we were the mythological golden door or golden mountain of the past, we have a mythological place as the nation of immigrants. Why? Well, transformations of identity are an important element of our national life. One of our favorite genres for books and movies is the rags to riches immigrant story, and always has been. Our geography is another reason. We face two oceans. We've been historically connected through the slave trade and empire building to Africa, to the Caribbean, to Latin America, to Asia, and for better or worse, we're historically more culturally diverse because of this. We act as a symbol and a model for a multicultural nation, although our multiculturalism is relatively recent, as we're going to learn in several weeks. It's our history of exclusion and selective inclusion that allows us to act as a foil against which other pluralizing nations can be measured. We have it all. Hyphenated identities, hybrid identities, ethnic identities, and a sense of national belonging. We're looked at in terms of our outward global impact, but we must look inward also. While we say our impact is global, much of it's national, even local. We impose our values all over the world with not so subtle imperial desires. Understanding immigration in American culture from the inside out is like looking at the empire striking back. Breathe. If you've not already done so, read the syllabus, view the other PowerPoint in week 1 and watch the TED Talk. Introduce yourself using the link in the orientation module. Don't forget to respond to another student's introduction. Next week, we're going to begin to look at immigration from our earliest history and the beginnings of exclusion. That's it for now. Thanks, everyone. Bye.